Hey, all you podcast listeners, you can find Slice of the Paranormal everywhere podcasts are found, or you can watch us on our YouTube channel.
Hey, hi, hello there.
Hey.
What's up? Happy today.
Happy today. Happy Monday.
It is a Monday for us.
We record on a Monday, but our show comes out on Wednesdays.
Typically. This is Slice of the Paranormal. I'm Ryan. This is Christy.
Hello.
This is Steve.
Hello.
This is the podcast where we talk about paranormal stuff, mysteries, histories, all kinds of creepy stuff, witches, warlocks.
Ghouls, ghosts.
Yeah, werewolves.
All kinds of fun stuff.
What about today?
Vampires.
And vampires. I've been waiting for this one.
Yeah, me too. I'm very excited about that. But before we do get started, I want to make sure I take some time to thank my dad. He made us... Roy Thompson. He made us a beautiful display case for our stained glass that was made for us by Kurt Karlovich.
It's beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, both of you, Kurt and Roy.
Yeah, it's very cool. Adding
Very
to
cool.
the studio.
Definitely appreciate it.
And we all love it.
Yeah. So thanks again to all friends and family who support us in this. It really means a lot to all of us.
Yeah, and the people asking for stickers and the T-shirts and stuff already.
Yeah.
That's very cool. We're getting on it. I promise. Actually, I did send out some stickers the other day.
Oh, cool.
Did you guys see that blood moon the other night? I think it was Friday night.
I did see the moon.
For sure knew about this moon because people were crazy.
Yeah.
Did you notice this?
Just talking about it, it was all over the news and...
I have Christian relatives who were like, it's the end of the world.
No way.
I'm like, come on.
They thought it was the end of the world?
I was like, the blood moon happens every year.
Yeah.
It's an annual thing.
It's an annual thing. You've lived through dozens of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel like the moon affects people. You know this, right?
Oh, definitely.
Do you think it is?
Sure.
And
Absolutely.
So my whole theory is I'm a big fan of water. I think water is very
Yep.
powerful and very important.
Of course.
I don't know, lots
Most
of levels.
things are
has
made up of
memory,
water.
all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But we're made up of,
Right.
The Earth is made up of 70% water. We're made up of 70% water.
Right.
I think definitely the gravitational tide affects us in some way, shape. Has to, right?
Yeah, and the moon.
Has to.
It
So
has
the
to.
moon's...
Well, and not to mention, like, working in the mental health field,
We've
lot
all
of times,
seen
we've
it.
all seen it kind of go up, like,
Oh, for sure.
behavior-wise
Yep.
with different clients.
It's the
All
same
over.
with kids, too. Kids will
Oh, yeah,
definitely
kids.
act
Amp
up
up.
more on full moons or near full moons and like Alzheimer's, which again goes with mental health. But, like older people definitely seem to
Yep.
get a little more
We do
agitated.
probably too. We just don't notice it maybe
Yeah.
as much.
Yeah, you're probably right.
What's blood, though? What's the blood part of the moon? Just the color of it?
Well, I mean,
You like
depending
how I
on the
stab
culture.
emotion when I did
Some
that.
people think it's the color, but there's different traditions where this is the snow moon or this is the pea moon or,
I know they had the harvest moon and there's different ones.
So, and I didn't research that for this episode, but it is interesting that we're talking about vampires on the week
When
of a blood
there
moon.
was just a blood moon.
Yeah. So, like, in my opinion, I think we're going to just assume that the blood moon is about vampires.
Yeah.
I love
At
it.
least for this week.
It worked out for us.
It did.
We'll take that creative liberty this week.
Yeah, like, according to Slice of the Paranormal, the blood moon is about vampires.
So vampires is an interesting topic. And so it's interesting with the paranormal side of things, too, because you find people that are just like, meh.
Yeah, they
Not my thing.
completely discount it as, like, why would you even think?
Yeah, obviously vampires don't exist.
They don't
Right.
exist.
But then on the other hand, you have people that believe so much that they go out and like physically alter themselves to become vampires.
Families.
Or just start drinking blood.
And
you know?
down in New Orleans, there's a vampire group of people that, do have willing participants offer
Yeah.
their blood and they drink it and they feel that they are vampires and that they need this as a life-sustaining force.
I believe that's called Renfeld syndrome.
Renfelds.
Renfeld, because it
Okay.
was named after like Dracula's
Oh,
assistant, I
yeah.
think.
Renfeld.
You mean
Renfeld?
out of this book
I believe
Dracula.
so.
by Bram
Yeah.
Stoker?
Yeah, but the condition where someone feels like they need to drink blood is actually named, I believe it's Renfield syndrome.
That sounds very logical.
Yeah.
To be named after him because he was the one that's like in the insane asylum and like impaling mice and insects in his cell.
Like with little mini stakes?
With mini stakes.
So warning, we're going to be talking about gross stuff and vampires and blood and all that stuff today. Heads up.
Yeah, a little bit.
Guess we're into it already.
But we're not the only ones into this stuff. We went down to Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which like has, to my knowledge, no connection to vampires that I know of. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy down there, Ed Crimmy, who has a museum called VAMPA. And
his full name is Eduardo, correct?
Edmondo.
Oh, Edmondo, which I just think is just the perfect name for someone who would have a vampire museum.
He's a very sweet guy. We were fortunate enough to get to talk to him.
Oh, yeah. This guy was awesome.
And, like, pick his brain about, like, what got him into this and all that. And we left him know we were going to do the podcast on his site.
We were so excited to run into him because we're going through this museum, and it is large. When you get there, the outdoors itself,
right?
There will be a video of this on our.
Yeah,
I can't wait to show
There's so much
people.
to look at.
Yeah, there's just so much to look at. So much different stuff.
Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Right?
Packed.
And it was packed. We're like, who's going to come to a vampire
museum Sunday morning
at 10
in the
middle of
winter.
nowhere, in the middle of winter, and
lots of people.
Lots of people were there,
and it was cool.
It was very cool.
But they had tons of different rooms.
They did.
Of all this different stuff, and we got to meet him right in the middle of it. We were like,
in that stairway room.
Yeah, we essentially, I had already emailed them to let them know, hey, we're coming down. This is what we're doing. And I let them know, hey, I'm going to be bringing some stuff for Ed because we live pretty close to some vampire lore.
That's right. You gave him
and so I gave him 2 pictures, one of the Hooded Grave Cemetery sign. And
put a pin in that one.
And one of the
put a pin in both of them,
yeah.
So he has those. And we were talking to him about how we were going to be going to Erie to check out the Vampire Crypt.
Yeah.
So all that we're going to talk about on this episode. But first off, I'd like to talk about VAMPA.
The actual building. When you say VAMPA, it is a museum of sorts.
It's actually Ed's home that he converted into a museum. And it has some history. It used to be a dairy farm at one time, which explains why it's so freaking huge.
It's old.
Right.
It's an old building.
I was also someone who had it before. Ed was an antique stealer, too. Mm-hmm. So there would be a lot of old stuff already being there. Good to have lots of energy.
I'd like to buy a 13-foot giraffe statue. They had 6 of them.
Yeah, they did.
No joke. Like, if you, whatever, dinosaurs, they got them. Whatever you need to buy for your outside or inside, he's got it.
Skull chairs.
Yeah, if you're driving by and you miss this place,
goddess statue.
You are blind if you miss this place.
It was
because there's so much in the yard. All you have to do is look for the place with tons of
fountains and statues. Yeah.
Now, he did open this museum in his home back in 2023. So that's only like not even 2 years ago.
Oh, remember the guy who works right inside the door?
Yes, I do.
He was like a little bit like, I don't want to be here right now.
Yeah. Sunday morning, 10 a.m.
I was like, can I get a receipt for this? He's like, no, I don't want to do
that. But then again, we're the first person he's seeing. He might not have had the coffee.
He's not ready yet. Yeah.
If he's anything like me, I'm not awake until like an hour after the coffee's in.
Trying to ask me for some receipts out here.
Yeah.
No, he was very nice, but it was funny because he definitely was not loving it. Maybe it's just his personality. He's one of those guys. You know what I mean?
It could be. It could be. Ed has claimed that his home has demonic infestations and a mysterious presence on the property. The house was an old dairy farm dating back to the late 1700s.
Oh, yeah.
And he's filled the home with items acquired from England, France, Germany, and Italy. Now, his family has a history of fighting the demonic. His grandfather's brother and uncle were priests in Catania, Sicily, and they performed exorcisms.
Oh, so it's like it's in the family.
It's in the family. So this is kind of like what instills this drive into the demonic and exorcisms.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's kind of the way like Dan Aykroyd's family was into like mysticism and stuff, and then he gets into writing Ghostbusters and all that stuff.
That's why we have Ghostbusters.
Right.
So,
so you know that first room that we go in, when you first go in, and it's all the vampire fighting kits, like so many of them.
That's exactly what it is.
And it's stakes and vials of holy water, salt,
it's like
all
big
kinds
chests,
of
full of different types of wooden,
and they were beautiful. Like
tools.
most of the things were very
painted
beautiful.
And decorative.
How many of those do you think were actually used? You know what I mean? Or how much of it was just done for art?
We talked about that day, and some of them shits had like they'd been in battle.
Some of them dated back to the 1700s. So
well, I had heard that like back then, it was common to have vampire fighting kits in like bars or establishments, and it made people feel safe to stay there.
If you had a vampire fighting kit.
Right. So a lot of like these kits would have been pieced together from different parts of the, like travelers that might have, but they'd put them there. So it's just, are they necessarily used, or were they just meant to be like, beautiful art and like protection in case of a vampire?
Interesting.
But maybe haven't actually been used.
Well, and then back in the
in
late
case a vampire break glass kind of situation.
Right.
Okay.
And in the late 1800s, you have to imagine there's a lot of people that are really into vampires because of things like the book Dracula by Bram Stoker.
Right.
And the Victorian period, there's really a blossoming of people offering vampire hunting kits to travelers. So like if you go to Romania, or
it was more common.
It was like an
those kind of
industry
things.
almost.
There was like an industry where like you'd come home and you'd be like, check it out. I got me some vampire hunting kit.
Right. Where did you get those, by the way?
I made them.
Nice.
I made this today. It still stinks of stain. And this I bought.
Oh, okay.
But I'm actually creating my own vampire hunting kit.
Nice.
Very cool.
I want to have a vampire hunting kit, and
we should have one.
Like I sent you pictures of some of the vampire hunting kits we had. Ed has one that was purchased by Michael Jackson.
Yep.
That's what I'm showing right now.
And the one that was purchased by Michael Jackson, do you remember how much it was?
I don't.
It was $8,000.
Oh, really?
And he bought that.
Dang.
And that was right after he did Thriller, correct?
It was right after he did Thriller, and he bought it in order to give to David Guest, who is Liza Minnelli's husband, or was. He's dead now. So he bought it as a gift for David Guest. And then another one of the vampire hunting kits was owned by Jack Palance, which...
Oh, yeah, Jack Palance. Remember him?
Yeah, like he did Ripley's Believe It or Not when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then...
Legend of Curly's Gold.
There it is.
And then I think, the younger generation, younger than myself, might remember her from City Slickers.
Yeah, that's what I know him from.
I'm old, so you know what I remember him? He did one-handed push-ups when he won some award.
Oh, yeah, I remember that,
Remember
too.
that?
Yeah.
He was like 70 and got up on stage and did like one-handed push-ups.
I think it was because he won for City Slickers for The Curse of Curly's Gold, didn't he?
Oh, that could be.
He might
Did
have.
he get something like supporting actor or something for that?
Well, see, my dad could do one-handed push-ups.
Yeah?
He used to be able, and he used to also be able to do the push-up where you clap in between.
Yeah.
Which it always embarrassed me because I was like girl push-ups, kind of guy. But it is what it is. But that whole room that you first walk into and that you're talking about, that is their permanent feature called The Art of the Kill.
Right, and that's what makes me think that the whole museum kind of takes you through a journey. It really does. Like, and it's called The Art of the Kill. So it's, you walk in and you're overcome by art pretty much. It's like everywhere. But then as you walk through, it's definitely gets a little darker, kind of, as you go through until you get to the very end, which I won't mention right now, but I'll let you bring that up.
It lightens it up a little bit. But essentially, he gets really into the vampire lore, and he has a job where he makes good money.
We're talking about this
about Ed while in Europe, and he starts collecting this stuff 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So he's been collecting this long before there's been a museum.
Oh, yeah.
Or probably even thinking about creating a museum.
He talked to us about his earlier life. I don't think he wants us to kind of talk about it on here. So
Correct.
Yeah,
He asked us not to share everything he shared with us.
Yep.
But just know that he did find himself in situations where he could
stuff like
acquire
that was
things.
available to him.
Right.
obviously.
Legally.
So, folklore about vampires dates back to the biblical times. I mean, stories about vampires rose greatly in the 1500s.
Okay.
And during the bubonic plague.
Right.
Is when it kind of really comes out. Now, the museum's items that are thought to kill vampires, it has like holy water, it has herbs, salt, wooden stakes, crucifixes, and other tools, the oldest of which I think dates to the 1400s. So
You remember there was that gin one too?
Yeah, there's a gin fighting kit.
Gin fighting kit. That
Very
was
similar,
really
but it
cool.
had a lot of curves to it for some reason.
Yeah.
Everything had curves.
now
All the blades were curved.
Yeah.
That's right.
Now, I don't know if you guys had any favorite items that you saw. One of my favorite items was the carved skull chair.
Yeah. Vincent Price's?
It was
Yeah.
Vincent Price's personal chair.
Yeah.
If you want
And
to see this stuff, we'll post it on our social media, but it's also on our YouTube.
Didn't look very comfortable to sit in.
No.
I gotta say.
Wait, who bought it before him, though?
Oh, I don't remember.
Wasn't there somebody else you said?
It might have been because Vincent Price dies in 1993.
But it's all hand carved, right?
It is all hand carved. And
It's a thing.
It's quite incredible.
Skull
it really
chair.
is.
But he
And
also-
right behind it is the exorcist chair, correct?
there are the Exorcist chairs.
I have that
There's
in here,
two
too.
of them. I think we saw one that had a cathedral back, and
They're creepy because they're so vintage looking. They're
And they
so
probably
antique-y
have been
looking.
used.
And they definitely have been used.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like the one that's where you're leaning back
Yep.
and there's all the straps.
Yes.
Like the straps you can see have been heavily used.
Is bad.
So God knows where he got that.
Mojo
Yeah.
on that, man.
Yeah, like if anything is carrying weird vibes or energy from the past, it'd be that.
And
one
what
of
was
those
so
exorcism
cool
chairs.
too was that like he had little plaques up next to everything.
Everything.
So you
There was
really
stuff-
got a chance to learn about.
In holes in the wall, remember?
Yeah.
You'd
the
look-
haunted ship.
Yeah, the haunted ship. I
Like
remember
in
that.
little holes in the wall. You have to look in like
Yeah.
a shoebox-sized hole, and there was a whole like display or diorama or artifact or something else. It's so
Or
cool.
remember
Everywhere you look.
The door to the basement.
Oh, the door to the basement just
Which
had chains.
I want to bring up a little bit later about the demon at the bottom of the steps.
Oh yeah.
Possibly.
I don't want to get ahead of him. I know.
Yeah, I know.
Now there's a seance exhibition that has a lot of paranormal activity. There's the doll room. Do you guys remember the doll room with the
yes.
chains on the door? And when you're
think I
looking
do
in,
have a
there's
picture of
there's dolls, there's puppets,
A huge
and
clown
clowns.
face.
Oh, it's the
that
worst.
huge clown
Remember,
face.
remember what I did?
Oh yeah, you kind of like. Ugh.
I turned right around. I didn't even know what was in there. I turned right around. You could tell, or I could tell, something wasn't right in that area.
And that supposedly is one of the highest activity rooms of the building.
You said like demonic activity.
Yeah, that's why the chains are there to keep people from touching the items.
Yeah.
And a lot of the vampire hunting kits are behind glass, but there's plenty that if you were to want to touch them, they're
Yeah.
just right there.
Right.
Now, the site is supposedly haunted by a girl. He is named Abigail, and she dates from the site from when it was used as a dairy farm. And the reason they think that there's this girl is they randomly find milk spilled at the site.
Ew.
Wow, really?
So they'll find a little puddle of milk,
I love that.
and everyone's like, "Who spilled the milk?" You know, and it's
Don't
just
cry.
blamed on Abigail.
Yeah.
That reminds me of the maple syrup, though, a little bit. Like weird
Kinda.
substances. Isn't there a difference, Steve? There's two words to describe things that like apparate or are summoned. Do you know the difference between? I think
I
we should
don't.
research that maybe for next time. There's a difference. Anyway, back to the Vampa thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but supposedly, you know, this girl's haunting the site. And there's, if you want to look online, there's a 2-part documentary called Paranormal Pickers, which features both Ed Crimmy and Eric Mintel talking about paranormal stuff at the site.
That's cool.
Now, Ed has lived on that property for 30 years, and he thinks the place is special due to this presence of Abigail. And he thinks it's the ghost of a little girl, and is connected to the farm when it's a dairy farm. He's even said that he's put out milk for cats, and like left the room, and like the cats have not been in the room, no one else is in the room, and the milk has gone down.
Okay.
By the time he gets back to the milk, so like milk,
the level has gone down.
Yeah, so the milk has also disappeared.
I love it
At the site.
Well, see, I like that. Makes more sense. The maple syrup, there wasn't any missing, right?
No.
For our guests that don't know, the maple syrup is in reference to the Y on Broadway at
Jim
On
Thorpe.
our second Jim Thorpe episode,
They had the maple syrup ghost.
Maple syrup appeared out of nowhere.
See, and that's the weird part. Actual milk being there and a ghost tossed it on the floor. I guess maybe that makes more. I don't know. Maybe that makes more sense to me.
No, but he was saying there was no milk, but they would find puddles of milk.
Oh, where there was no milk. Yeah,
right.
Same
so
thing.
It's the same thing.
My bad.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, when you research ghosts, you find a lot of like common themes. But like in all the thousands of places I've researched, I have never heard of milk appearing or disappearing, or maple syrup. So they're kind of in their own little realm of
true story.
You know, you're not gonna if you're gonna make something up, you're gonna make up something that's more
like make it blood being
scary, unique, right? Gives a creepy vibe.
Not milk.
No one gets really creeped out when you start talking about Aunt Jemima. You know, it's
No.
Beelzebub Jemima.
you might get hungry for some pancakes. So, my favorite item at the site was the vampire hunting hearse.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that thing was beautiful.
Gorgeous, and the back of it, where the casket would be, is just filled with vampire hunting equipment. And
so intricate. They call it the hearse for the hunt.
The hearse for the hunt.
It's pretty cool.
Now, my other favorite thing there was a Marie Laveau spell kit. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Yep.
Marie Laveau lived in New Orleans from 1801 to 1881, and it was also owned by David Guest.
I don't think I have that one.
There is only 12 of those known to exist in the world, and I love that he has an element of New Orleans, because New Orleans has its own vampire lore.
Has a lot of vampire
lore. Before we even started recording, I was telling Ryan that, you know, I've been to some of the vampire sites down there, and we're not going to talk about them on this episode because New Orleans deserves its own vampire episode.
Oh, yeah.
Because of that.
That's definitely a goal.
Yeah. I mean, there's like the Anne Rice connections,
right.
The graveyard where Brad Pitt's character turns into a vampire is down there.
Okay.
Traipsed around that graveyard as well.
I bet you have dirt from it too, don't you?
I actually do not have dirt from New Orleans, but I have part of Marie Laveau's gravestone.
Oh, jeez.
Because they cover it with lime because it fluffs off because of the high humidity. So you find chunks of the stuff fluffed off.
Yeah.
So I, of course, being the reputable ghost hunter I am, pretended to tie my shoe and take a piece of Marie Laveau's grave.
Nice.
Because back in the day, you used to be able to put like 3 little X's on it and then ask Marie Laveau for a favor.
Oh.
And she would grant your wish.
Really?
So
At what cost?
Oh no, she was actually a good person.
Okay. I hadn't done much research. I knew she was associated with voodoo, correct?
She is associated with voodoo, but
she's Big Mama.
She also got married
Voodoo.
at the St. Louis Cathedral down there and was a Catholic. So she helped out a lot.
Well, don't you
lot of
think
people.
like of all like the Christian religions, Catholics are kind of like the most paranormal? Believing.
Yeah, they worship saints and stuff.
Yeah, and they believe in exorcisms and stuff, where a lot of the other religions really don't.
Yeah.
You know?
I would agree. Now, the last thing I have really on Vampa is coming back to what you had started to mention. The basement is used as the cleansing room and is off limits for visitors.
Right.
So you remember seeing that. What have you figured out about that site?
Well, apparently you can visit it if you're a ghost hunting team, because I watched a video last night of some people who actually did ghost hunt there.
I can see him letting people in. He seems really nice guy.
Yeah. So that's one thing I wanted to talk to you about. Like, I would love to go back there and actually do a little investigating. And since he did let some people in before, maybe he'd let us go in before. Ryan, you might be too chicken shit to go, but I know Jill would go.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to call you chicken shit, buddy. I'm just kidding.
You need someone to go get the pizza.
Here you go.
There you go.
I'll be pizza guy.
Be the pizza guy.
When we go down to the basement,
you'd do the
upstairs, though.
So
You'd investigate the upstairs.
Yeah,
stay
you
out
can
in the
stay in
far
the
end.
Michael room.
Yeah.
But so the demon in the basement, basically there's a statue down at the bottom of the steps, and it's like in chains, and they have like red light coming up on it. It definitely looks creepy. And I think he said that he spent the last 5 years trying to cleanse the statue, and it just will not be cleansed.
And is it another one of the... is it a St. Michael statue?
No, do you remember, it's the one where you look down the basement door and you could see it lit up?
Okay.
We don't have a picture of it.
You don't have it, yeah. Remember, my sinuses were attacking me when we were in there. Do you remember? That's why I don't have a whole lot of pictures, because I couldn't stop blowing my nose the whole time we were in there. It was very strange. Maybe it was a demon. But
Sinus demon.
yeah. But the people who did the ghost hunt, they got some really weird, interesting stuff. When one of them sat at the top of the steps, they did an Estes method, and the other one sat beneath Mary Laveau's.
Estes is when you hold the rods, right?
No. It's where you...
Oh, Estes when you wear the headphones. And
you wear the headphones and have your vision blocked so that you can't hear what the questions are. And the other person... One person's asking questions, the other person's listening to the real-time EVP recorder.
But cannot hear what the other person's asking.
So they're just spouting off stuff, and it's the reader of the questions that has to try to decipher if they're making connection.
Yeah, and I tell you, there was some... Now, I know editing, the wonders of editing can happen, but they seem to get some real legit stuff, like some direct answers to questions, like, are you here for a reason? Yes. Right, like that. And it was pretty creepy. I'd definitely like to go check it out again.
I'm good on that place, man.
Well, I mean,
the demon stuff.
For people like Ryan who don't enjoy the dark demonic aspects.
I don't need that to be coming home with me.
But again, that's interesting because, Ryan, you were raised Catholic, and I wasn't. Were you?
No, I was raised Atari 2600.
Nice.
My parents would send me and my brother to a church and then whip out the Atari 2600 to play the games. So that Christmas, when we opened up our Atari 2600, my father was oddly great at Frogger, and my mom was the Pac-Man queen.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
The Atari 2600 is the religion of my family.
But I think the point I was making was that, like, he was raised Catholic, so he's the one who seems to be more scared of demons and stuff than you and I.
Maybe he has a healthy fear.
Right, maybe because he was around it much more and talked about it.
I'll tell you the truth, though, is all this comes from the feeling I got when I was around that room.
Really?
Like
the doll room.
I'm not basing anything else. At least I don't think I am. I'm not basing it off anything else except for that. That's the whole reason I don't want to go back to that place. If I don't want to ever investigate around that stuff personally, that's not where that's not my deal.
But for people that
stuff freaked me out. Just being near it freaked me, like made me uneasy.
Was it one of the items like that you saw that instills that? Because some people don't like clowns.
No, I'm cool with clowns. I thought that maybe it's just the clown setting me off. I did think that, but no, it was just the room gave me an uneasy. I immediately felt my body get warmer. Like I actually felt like I was like, okay, something's not right. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I could tell that there was a visceral response with Ryan.
Yeah.
Right when he looked into that room, he just the other way.
It turned right around.
And
so I'm good on checking that place out. You guys can go again. I'll get
for
pizza.
people that are not into that sort of realm, like you had started to mention, the last room kind of brings it back to center because it is the room dedicated to St. Michael, the archangel of protection.
That's pretty cool.
And to ghost hunters, a lot of ghost hunters carry the prayer of St. Michael as a protection from dark forces.
That makes sense.
So it out of that whole museum, I do think that was the most calming of all the spaces.
Well, plus I mean, everything was like lighter colored in there and white. Like he really had it like angelic kind of, you know what I mean?
Where some of the other rooms are more dark and they got the reds.
Dark reds and blacks
Right.
and greens. And,
so like he really utilized the setup of the museum to really get you to feel the rooms you were in.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And it was like a journey as you go through it.
So, I mean,
and way bigger than you'd think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I highly recommend everyone go to the VAMPA, and it's at 3686 US 202, Doylestown, PA. And this is in Bucks County, Pennsylvania.
Towards the Philly side of the state.
So,
isn't Michael like a jerk in Supernatural?
Yes.
Yeah. Don't they imprison him or something? Sam and Dean?
It's on the show Supernatural. They really play with the
angels and demons.
The bad
really
versus
do.
good.
you guys
Who's
always
good? Who's
whip out
bad?
the Supernatural, and I'm always in left field.
Sorry.
Well,
No, it's good though.
No, but it kind of goes back to like Michael just being a badass, basically. Like in the museum, he's wielding huge swords. He usually has Satan under his feet with
It's
chains.
true. He's depicted.
You know.
What's the other thing?
I have St. Michael statues at my house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. The iconic look is he's got a sword. He's got a demon chained to him.
Yeah.
And he's stepping on the demon.
Right.
And that is like 90% of the St. Michael
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
statues you
So
see.
I think in Supernatural they play on that like Michael's basically like the weapon of God, and so
They definitely is.
Okay.
so that's why he's a jerk, because he's basically just a weapon for God.
As you can see, the show has 17 or some seasons. It needed somewhere to go with the
definitely.
storyline. Yeah, they just thought after
But they definitely
Wendigo,
yeah.
it definitely took a
Wendigo is like the fourth episode.
So like I already mentioned that we gave Ed some pictures of the hooded grave.
Right.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the hooded cemetery.
Before we leave there is a really cool picture. I forgot to mention the Ouija board collection they have.
Oh yeah, that also has chains, does it
It
not?
has chains, so do not go in there.
Yeah, the
as well.
talking board, spirit board.
Yeah, I mean, and do we have any other images that we didn't talk about that we should speak of?
I don't have another image from there, but I did have one I wanted to talk about. If there's any other like well-known vampire cases across, that we could bring up aside from ones we did talk about.
One thing that Vampa did have on display was they had a picture of a skull with a rock in its mouth. And that's because over in the old world, they found a graveyard that they assumed were vampires because the villagers had taken rocks and shoved them into the mouths of the dead to keep them from being able to hurt the living.
Which you kind of hear a lot, right?
You do. And you also hear of ones where they'll find a grave where someone's been buried with a sickle that encompasses the neck. So if they rise, they cut off their own neck.
head off.
Dang.
So one thing I wanted to find out was, are there any vampire cases like that in the U.S.?
Right.
And we do have one in Rhode Island. Mercy Brown.
That's this picture, yeah.
We have a picture of Mercy Brown. What happened was Mercy Brown's mother dies of tuberculosis. And then her sister dies of tuberculosis.
Again, it's always tuberculosis.
It's always the consumption.
So Mercy Brown is actually the third person in the family to die of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
And she's buried, and the townspeople are like, it's got to be a vampire. So they dug up Mercy and her mother and sister, all three graves, to try to figure out which one is the
Wait,
vampire.
why did they say it's got to be a vampire?
So a lot
Because
of people thought that and it was consumption.
because they were dying of the consumption.
Yeah, because think about what it looks like.
You get very pale.
You get very pale. You start wasting away.
Right, coughing up blood.
Coughing up blood.
Okay, so it's
then a
not
lot of
consumption.
times-
You're a vampire.
when they die, they'll get bloated. And you know what I mean? So
Oh,
they'll
yeah.
think, it's because they're out at night drinking blood.
Okay.
So when they dig these three people up, these three women, they find that the mother and the older sister are decomposing as they should.
Yeah.
Now, Mercy Brown had died in the winter. So, and it was only like a month or two after she died that they dig her up.
So she's obviously not going to be that decomposed.
So she's not going to be that decomposed. So, surprise, surprise, she's the least decomposed of the three. So they mutilate the body of Mercy Brown by cutting out her heart and her liver.
There you go.
And
what year was this again? I'm sorry.
Late 1800s. I don't have the year in front of me.
Okay, but just general late 1800s.
Late 1800s. And they burn the heart and the liver.
Yeah.
And then they pulverize it.
Wow.
And it was to create a tonic because her brother Edwin also had tuberculosis. So the plan was
farther.
They made Edwin drink the tonic made from his sister's heart and liver
pulverize
to try to
stop pulverize
the curse.
Because they're all obviously vampires.
And you can kind of guess if it worked or not.
Poor
2
guy.
months later, Edwin's dead of tuberculosis.
Yep.
Yeah, because they just fed her more tuberculosis.
Well, there's no sanitation. Everybody got sick because everybody's sharing the stuff.
Yeah.
No one's washing their hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no hygiene.
Gotta love the 1800s, you know.
There's horse poop everywhere.
How did humanity survive? Sometimes you gotta wonder.
It is a wonder. But Mercy Brown's an interesting case. And just so you know, I do have friends that are gathering some grave dirt from Mercy Brown's grave.
That was going to be my next question.
For my vampire hunting kit collection. So I'll have some Mercy Brown dirt. And then we gave Ed pictures of the Hooded Cemetery. Mm-hmm. Now, for those of our listeners and viewers that aren't in central Pennsylvania, in Catawissa, Pennsylvania, we have a cemetery called the Hooded Cemetery. And it's at 277 Longwoods Road.
Middle of nowhere.
Got
lost
to
twice.
Don't say we.
Me. I got lost.
You got lost.
I said got lost.
And
I couldn't believe how close it was.
To dude's house?
Yeah.
So some guy's backyard.
Well, yeah, to his house. But I mean, just in general to our, vicinity. It's so close.
True story.
Now, originally, this is called Mount Zion Cemetery. And if you go there today, there's 2 caged graves. One is Sarah Ann Thomas Boone, whose husband was Ronslow Boone. And she dies in 1852 at age 22.
Caged. Entirely caged.
Caged.
Ornate cages.
You have pictures up?
I do.
Okay, good.
And then the second grave is Asenath Campbell Thomas, married to John Thomas, also dies in 1852, age 20. Now, the thing about these graves is, locally, when you're growing up, people tell you they're either witches' graves, they're werewolf graves, or they're vampire graves.
We've heard all 3.
Because there's cages, the question always is, are the cages to keep people out or to keep them in?
Yeah.
So if it's to keep people out, then people say, well, maybe they're mort safes. They're protecting from grave diggers, the resurrectionists at the time. We do have Geisinger Hospital, which is nearby, and more than likely was procuring bodies illegally for dissection back in the day.
As was the common practice.
Yep. So maybe these safes were there to protect these graves.
Fair enough.
I think that's a great idea, except for the fact that the groundskeepers can tilt them over to remove them to weed whack and mow the lawn there.
Yeah, I really think the only way they'd be effective is if it would go down into the ground a little bit.
And maybe be cemented.
Right.
Now, the cages that we're looking at are reconstructed.
They're not the originals?
They are parts of the originals.
Okay.
That had been fixed. There was a third grave for a woman named Rebecca Thomas Clayton, who used to have a cage, and her cage had disintegrated to the point of not being able to be repaired.
Gotcha.
Now
she freed.
Think they were made of iron?
Oh yeah, and
that's where they made their mistake, because that vampire's on the loose, man.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing is, these people are all related. This is and. The some people have said, well, they could just be decorative because they're all part of the Thomas family, and the family worked as ironmasters. And
why would they? Yeah, why would they think they were a vampire at all? Like you were saying, well,
if the cage is to keep them inside,
Right.
And
Why would people think that? Was
people
there
might
any...
think of it. We don't know exactly what killed these people.
Okay. It's because they were young?
So because they're young, it could have been tuberculosis, which would
Again
say why maybe they thought they were vampires. But two of the ladies, one died shortly after giving birth to a child. And the other one died a few months after giving birth to a child. So they might have both died in childbirth.
Right.
Because in the 1800s...
From complications.
Yeah.
Giving birth to a child, it's a dangerous thing,
you
know? So they could be just natural deaths.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away from the fact that the lore exists and is out there, and we hear about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the history is not very well known about why they did that. Like, no one ever wrote about
There's no actual account for it.
No historical time period accounts on why they added the cages. Although there was a local doctor, Dr. McKelvey, who was a surgeon in Bloomsburg who worked on illegally obtained cadavers. When the Lutheran and Reformed Cemetery in Bloomsburg was moved in 1925, 100 bodies were found missing.
Oh.
That's quite a lot of bodies.
So that's just in Bloomsburg. And if for those of our viewers that don't live locally, Catawissa is separated from Bloomsburg simply by a bridge.
Yep.
And it's what, not even a half a mile from one another. So that could be part of it. So
and it's all near Knoebels.
All near Knoebels.
By the way, do you guys notice they took the sexy lady off the sign?
No.
That's harsh.
You know the sign I'm talking about, coming out of 61 going towards Knoebels.
Oh, yeah.
And there's that lady on the end of the diving board, and she's been there forever. She's gone now.
Oh.
She gone.
Oh, that's harsh.
Yeah, I think they're getting they're wondering about getting PC maybe.
So because of the vampire lore, I shared that with Ed, because I think that if he's going to have a vampire museum, he's got to have it tied to the vampire lore of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So we decided we needed to ramp it up.
That's right.
And we not only had this stuff to give him, but we promised Ed we were going to go to the Erie Cemetery to check out the Vampire Crypt.
Yeah.
Opposite side of the state. And Pennsylvania's a pretty big state, so...
Yeah, it's like, 4 hours for us to get there, and we're like in the middle of the state.
Yeah, so if you went from one to the other, it's probably like a 7-hour drive.
Yeah, it's got to be brutal.
6.5, 7 hour.
So the Erie Cemetery is near West 26th Street in Erie, Pennsylvania. And when you find the Erie Crypt, which is not easy, we drove around.
Which is not easy.
We drove around for like ever trying to find this crypt.
It's a very big cemetery. It was a snowy day and miserable and eerie.
It was very cold. Ethereal, though. Like, didn't it have a weird feeling to it when we were there?
Because of the snow?
Yeah, because of the snow. It reminded me a little bit of like Silent Hill, I guess, vibe to it.
Well, there was a lot of the whiteness of the snow compared with the dark tinge of the graves.
So many of the gravestones, yeah.
A lot of the gravestones have that dark aging from...
Is that because they're so old and the material that they were used?
Some people will say it's due to acid rain. And just normal wear and tear.
Yeah, unlike limestone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, and we went there for another reason as well, which we'll have it on another episode, but some of the other graves in there, those were old. They varied from more recent to those really thin, old limestone ones. Like, so it was all over the place.
Oh, totally.
It was huge. It was such a big graveyard.
It was massive.
I don't know. Was that maybe the biggest one we've been in? It'd be interesting to look.
Big.
It's big, but I don't know if it's larger than the one in New Haven, Connecticut. Yeah. I mean, they're both really.
I feel like we could have got lost and almost did get lost.
We could have gotten lost in either of those two cemeteries. But
we found it.
We did find it, and when you see it, it's a blackened mausoleum. Some say it's moss covered, but when we saw it, I didn't see any moss on it.
No moss.
And we have to find these things by basically looking at other people's pictures and looking at gravestones that are similar and
triangulating
triangulate
piece ourselves into that.
So we
kind of
really,
like the FBI trying to find terrorists. We're trying to find weird ass graves.
I actually find it very fun.
Yeah,
I don't
find it
know if
fun
you guys
too.
do, but like I really enjoy that.
I enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed it when we did the H.H. Holmes because
Me too.
we're in a cemetery with thousands upon
Yeah.
thousands of graves, and we're looking for 2 of them.
Yep.
And
And we have no idea where.
we have
It's
no
a bit
idea
like
where.
a treasure hunt, really.
And when you can pinpoint a certain headstone with a certain tree,
Yeah.
and you can
That's
identify, like
It's exciting.
it's a little fun, weird, creepy treasure hunt. So
I agree.
some say the grave has an engraved symbol above the entrance that looks like a bat.
Let's see if I can zoom in on that guy. Oh, yeah, a little bit.
Some say it's a V, some say it's a bat. General Manager J. Clark Kublers of the Erie Cemetery Association says the legend has been around a long time. The cemetery was founded in 1851.
And it has no name above the door, correct?
It doesn't.
No, unmarked.
Now, I read in some reports that that the family didn't want their name associated with it, and they chiseled their name off.
Off of it. Wow.
But
It looks smooth.
There
though.
is a
was
spot
smooth.
up there where it could have been.
Really?
Hey,
I'm,
look.
Yeah, I guess so.
Maybe.
I'm of the opinion that I don't think the name was ever there.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it could have been. I mean, I've been
But
wrong
we don't
before.
know who's actually buried there, or we do.
I do know a little bit of who's buried there. Not
Okay.
everybody. The crypt is said to be a tomb for a wealthy Romanian businessman.
Okay.
But after he was interred, dead bodies were found in the surrounding neighborhoods, drained of blood with bite marks on their necks.
Ooh.
Others claim curses follow anyone who disrespects the crypt.
Oh.
So
We did not disrespect that crypt.
I do know that the person that owned the crypt was named Gertrude Brown. She owned the mausoleum, but is not buried there.
Okay.
The first person that was added was a person named G.W. Goodrich, who died on November 14th, 1884, and several other bodies joined him.
Goodrich don't sound like a vampire.
So far, none of these people are the Romanian. The Romanian supposedly died of, guess what?
Tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis consumption. So people who have this cough up blood, waste away slowly. Well, while
Blah,
these
blah, blah.
bodies are being found drained of blood, it said a maintenance man saw a figure leave the crypt, and when the person went back to the crypt, he set the crypt on fire to try to kill the vampire.
Oh, okay.
So when we saw the crypt, it's
Yeah.
blackened.
It is.
And supposedly it's because the groundskeeper had set it on fire.
Set the stone on fire.
Yeah, it sounds a little... Well, I mean, the caskets are made of wood.
True. Inside, I guess.
Yeah,
inside
you
was
could put like
fair enough.
fabric in there or
The
something.
door
light it on.
is probably
yeah,
wood,
the door.
maybe.
Maybe some pews.
So, I mean, it could be soot, it could be acid rain, depending on which end of the spectrum
Yeah.
you're on. In the 1930s, a student entered the crypt and stole a ring from a corpse and slid it onto his finger to prove that he entered the mausoleum. The next day, he
little
was
crooked.
found dead in his bed
Yeah.
with his finger torn off.
Look at that.
Oh. This is actual event or this is lore?
This is lore.
Okay.
I couldn't vouch for it myself.
No computer clippings.
Since
Newspaper.
since the 1930s,
Allegedly.
Yeah.
allegedly, yeah, they sealed the vaults, so we can't get in it.
Right. We tried.
So
I mean, I can.
no rings.
we got the
for
crowbar
us.
out. Didn't work.
And it's also chained. Now, there were a total of 7 people that were originally entombed in this crypt, 3 of which have been exhumed and moved elsewhere.
Oh.
More than likely because the families didn't want their loved ones associated with the Vampire Crypt.
Yeah.
You know, like,
It is a beautiful crypt, though.
it is. So, I do have a list of the 5 that are still in there. Or some of them that are in there: Mary Goodrich, Julia Goodrich, an S. Brown, and the son of A.J. or possibly A.C. Goodrich. But what I don't have is the name of the Romanian.
So we don't even have the one guy that might be the vampire?
Yeah.
We don't know who, and that's the legends always spring up when you don't have the information. So if you don't have like the 7th person, obviously it's the 7th person. It's none of these people.
Obviously.
Right.
Because you could look these people up and say, well, this guy died of a heart attack.
Not him.
And from Romania, like that is like
the epicenter of like vampirism, you know? Yeah. It's like being from Transylvania.
Exactly.
And your middle name is Vlad, you know? Of course, that's the vampire.
Yeah, it lends to reason.
So, I don't know. I mean, I really love the vampire lore. It's rooted in history because people have believed in vampires for hundreds of years, thousands of years. There are vampire hunter kits that are out there.
Yeah.
And from various time periods.
It's fun too. You know, I mean, I think it's like intriguing. It's like, and it's one of our main monsters when you think about it. You know what I mean? Dracula is like, it's iconic as far as all that stuff goes, you know?
Yeah.
Kids know a Dracula.
Like women, when they watch horror movies, they're never going to be attracted to Frankenstein or a werewolf.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
But Dracula is the romantic guy that could attract.
Oh yeah, it's very it's
lady.
erotic with the neck and everything,
hypnotizing and all that.
Yeah, and the fact that like, come on, Gary Oldman and the Dracula with Keanu Reeves, like Gary Oldman's Dracula was very charismatic.
Yeah,
you know, so I think he's an icon of the dark mixture of the dark and sensual, you know.
Yeah,
Bela
for sure.
Lugosi is who we always imitate, right? Isn't he the
Bela Lugosi?
blah,
Yeah,
blah,
blah, blah.
That's the Bela. Yeah.
But what got me into vampires when I was in like early high school, probably my freshman year, is I saw the movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer with Christy Swanson and Pee Wee Herman, you know,
and the dude from Luke Perry, man.
Yeah, Luke Perry, Rutger Hauer. It's a great movie.
And I always imagine the Pee Wee Herman death scene.
Oh, I know. It's so funny.
It's ingrained in my brain.
Yeah.
It's
perfect.
He's awesome.
Which led to then Buffy the series, which went on for a long time. We watched together.
Oh, yeah.
And is phenomenal. Like, it really is a phenomenon in itself, the vampire. Like, whole idea of vampire.
It's so ingrained in us that it's not even like...
Like you said, it's a main monster.
Pop culture. It's everything.
So, I mean, like...
But it really could just come down to tuberculosis.
it could be tuberculosis or hemophilia.
Oh, yeah.
If someone had hemophilia, they might naturally crave
That's true.
blood, you know? Because there's stories where, like, I was talking to a lady and her kid used to eat the bindings of books. So she took her kid to the doctor and be like, what the hell's wrong with my kid? She's eating the bindings of books. And the doctor's like, well, there's obviously some vitamin that she's craving that she's not getting. Yeah. And she's eating essentially the glue.
The glue to get that vitamin.
To get that vitamin. So
I've heard of kids eating chalk that were like calcium deficient.
Yeah, so like your body will make you hungry for things that you'd need. So to solve the problem, all the mom had to do was diversify the child's diet.
Yeah, give them some actual food.
Some Elmer's glue or some
I guess I got to give the kid more than Kool-Aid.
Keeps eating these books.
No more chicken nuggets for you, kid. So, I don't know. Do I believe in vampires?
Yeah.
Maybe. Who am I to know? You know, that they could be out there.
Yeah.
I do think that scientifically, like, to sustain a vampire culture
you'd require a familiar.
Require a lot. And I think that it wouldn't take hundreds of years to make everyone a vampire at some point.
Oh, no, that would happen pretty
So
quickly.
I think the math is against it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I do not hold any...
I do think energy vampires are real, though.
Oh, yeah.
People who can suck your energy, you know what I mean?
I've dated a few of those soul suckers.
Yeah. I think we've all known a few of those.
Definitely still do.
Right, so...
Vampires can't eat pizza, though, can they?
I don't know. Oh, but Mercy
garlic
Brown,
on it.
I did get the year. She dies in 1892. She was 19 years old.
Oh.
I forgot I wrote it down.
Do you want this New Orleans stuff?
Oh,
real quick?
I did want to mention that, like, if we go to New Orleans, some of the things we want to check out are obviously there's the Saint. What the heck is it? The one cemetery where Anne Rice has the Wayfarer Witches or whatever, and the Vampire Chronicles is based out of.
Okay.
We can go to that cemetery.
Let's do it all.
And have a great meal at Commander's Palace right across the street.
I've heard there's good food.
And I can even point to you where Sandra Bullock lives.
Oh.
You know, because she's like 3 doors down.
Do that.
They have the legends of the Carter brothers, which are 2 brothers that supposedly were vampires.
Yeah.
And were making victims of the people of New Orleans.
Oh.
Okay.
And
Sounds good.
When we go down there, we will talk about the Count of Saint Germain.
Okay.
Who is a notable vampire, and his evidence of being in New Orleans spans more than 200 years.
Interesting.
Oh.
Because there's
evidence?
Well, there's a guy that was there in the 1600s and 1700s, and then in the 1900s he reappears as his descendant, and people think that he's not really a descendant.
Yeah, which is what you would say if
really the original
Interesting.
Count of Saint
I like
Germain.
it.
Well, I'm excited to hear that.
Yeah, me
But
too.
as always, whenever we visit things, we have to check out creepy things. So they also have the Boutique du Vampire.
Yeah.
And there's 2 places we have to go to. One to eat, New Orleans Vampire Cafe, and the Vampire Apothecary Restaurant and Bar, because we always need booze.
Oh, okay.
And
nice.
The picture of that has a bartender, and he's holding my favorite alcohol, chartreuse, which I blame Poppy Zebright and her book, Lost Souls, which is about vampires in New Orleans drinking copious amounts of chartreuse.
And that's where this whole love for chartreuse of yours started?
That is. Back in...
Really?
What year was it? 1996
Oh.
and 1997 is when I started drinking chartreuse.
Dang.
So it's been a few years.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So back to your idea, like, do vampires eat pizza?
Yeah. Can vampires eat food?
I think they can.
Do they poop?
In the Vampire Diaries, they drink booze.
Can you imagine vampires poop? I don't know. It's not very elegant.
Well, you don't see them pooping.
I guess not.
You know that they're pooping.
That's it for vampires. Should we get to the pizza?
That is it for vampires.
All right. Well, let's get to the pizza, because that's what we do. We review pizza. We could have checked out a pizza place in Doylestown, but we were en route to another place, so we did it here in Catawissa near the Hooded Graves.
Correct.
And on reference from some people locally, we went to Subs on Main in Catawissa, right? In Catawissa?
Yeah.
Right downtown.
Yeah. Right on the corner there. Across from the old opera house, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That big old downtown Catawissa, that's
Get lost in that
sprawling metropolis. Subs on Main, cute shop in the downtown Catawissa. Tons of cheese options, including horseradish cheddar and sharp Cooper. Remember that?
Yeah.
You could get
Any kind of cheese you wanted on your
literally.
pizza.
I've never seen that before. She's like, "What kind of cheese do you want?"
Yeah.
What kind of question is that?
I've never had it posed to me when ordering a pizza.
The cheese you put on the pizza.
Yeah.
9-inch pizzas, so they were all not a little bigger than personal,
Yeah.
which was nice sized.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like that, maybe. Something like
Yeah.
that, like maybe 9-10 inches.
And then we got because I said, "What's your typical? I want whatever you would serve as your cheese pizza." And
Yeah.
she said, "That's our hot cheese pizza." So hot cheese for people that are not in the coal region of Pennsylvania, which I think is like the only place
seems
might
to be
exist.
regional,
Please tell
yeah.
me if it's not. They use jack
Pepper jack.
cheese, jack cheese on it. Yep, as well as sometimes
Mozzarella.
mozzarella, or a lot of times
American.
they use American. Yep. So this one we were hoping would have that kind of hot flavor. It did not. It tasted more like a regular
Yeah.
pizza. Had a really great flavor. Steve, 3.75 out of 5. Monster score there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
I think it's a solid pizza, you said. Would have gotten a larger score had the crust been firmer, but the crust did have an amazing flavor. I liked that the pepperoni was cut up so the flavor was spread out and each bite wasn't overwhelming with pepperoni. I remember that. It's like strips of pepperoni, right?
Yeah, they were like little wedge-shaped pepperoni slices.
Yeah.
So like you got a pepperoni flavor, but it didn't overwhelm, like in each bite. But I did like that the crust was, even though it wasn't quite as hard as I would have liked it to be, it had a buttery kind of like quality to it, which was really good.
And what do we say that pizza's kind of called when we get that? Is that like a Detroit style?
I think we're still debating that, what we call it.
Is that what people call Detroit style, though?
Well,
like
isn't that just with the sauce on the top?
Maybe.
Detroit sauce. And I know Chicago deep dish is like that, too, but I think Detroit has like 2 strips of sauce on it.
Oh. Strip sauce.
I don't know.
It was good. You liked it? 3.5 out of 5.
Did I give it that high?
Would have been a higher score if the bottom was even slightly crispier. I see. In my opinion, I think it could have used slightly less cheese.
Yeah.
Blasphemy!
I do think it was a little cheese heavy.
Although we did get the hot cheese, I didn't have the spice that I was hoping for, but overall the pizza had great flavor.
Yeah, and I will say I ended up with that leftover pizza. It was left in my car that night.
Oh, that's right.
And it did get better, heated up. It definitely did.
I bet.
So I'll stand by my score of a solid 3.5.
And then I'm on the lower end. I gave it a 2.75 out of 5. I really like the flavor of this cheese. I remember it having, even though I was expecting the hot cheese flavor, it had a really nice, whatever the mix was, it was nice. I like the cheese, and I like the amount, it says.
Yeah.
It had a good flavor and got kind of bubbly and well done. Like, you know, it gets that little brown on top. Crust was not to my liking. Crust flavor was buttery and nice, but very bready and soft. Sauce was good. I'd eat here again, though. I would totally eat that pizza. That kind of stuff, like I said, when it has that thicker crust and it's like buttery, it reminds me more like a cheesy bread. Or, you know, I'd rather have that and dip it in sauce or something like that. But it was good. 2.75 is not a bad score.
And I was actually surprised because that pizza, minus the flavor of the cheese, reminded me, like the crust reminded me of the Meadville pizza that was really like.
Exactly.
Speaking of blasphemy, my brother ended up with that pizza that night.
Oh, yeah?
And did not eat it.
What?
What? So he ended up throwing it away?
He ended up throwing it away a couple of days later. I almost, leaving his house that night, I almost said, save me a piece. I almost texted him and save me a piece of that pizza. I didn't. You
shouldn't have given it to him at all.
I've learned a lesson.
Yeah.
I've learned a lesson.
At least Nate eats the pizza from New Haven, Connecticut.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. Can always count on you to eat the pizza.
And to like our videos and to be a supporter of Slice of the Paranormal.
But I think that's about it. I think that's about it for today, right? Oh, I did have a picture. That's what I was going to say.
That is it for today.
We'll post that on the website. Oh, yeah, we have a website, slicetheparanormal.com. If you like what we're doing, follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe, please, comment, any of that stuff. If you have something you want to tell us about vampires, we love it. If you have someplace we should go, something we don't know about, please comment, let us know, direct message us, whatever you want to do. Send us telegraph, smoke signals.
Thumbs up, like, and thank you, everyone, and join us next time you crave a slice of the paranormal.
That's right.
This podcast was produced by Stone State Entertainment.